Why is my chairman saved in your phone as Dad? Ashley Parker's voice was barely above a whisper, yet somehow it cut through the quiet conference room more sharply than the elevator chime outside. Ryan Mitchell stopped beside the presentation console. Excuse me. Thomas Harrison. Ashley lifted Ryan's phone, her blue eyes fixed on the screen. The founder of this company. My chairman. He's saved as Dad. Ryan didn't rush toward her. He didn't look embarrassed. He simply stood there in his faded navy work shirt, sleeves rolled over strong forearms. Dark brown hair slightly mussed from crawling behind a cabinet 10 minutes earlier. Outside the glass walls, downtown Chicago shimmered beneath a pale morning sky, traffic moving 30 floors below like tiny threads of light. Inside, the only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning. Ashley had borrowed his phone because hers had died minutes before the most important board meeting of the quarter. That was all this was supposed to be. A phone. A favor. A man she had passed in hallways without remembering twice. You know Thomas Harrison? She asked. Yes. Personally. Yes. Her expression tightened. 3 questions seemed to arrive at once, but only one escaped. How personally? Ryan glanced at the screen. His face remained calm, almost frustratingly so. He raised me. Ashley stared at him. For 3 years, she had reported to Thomas Harrison, the 64-year-old founder whose signature could move hundreds of millions of dollars and whose silence could make seasoned executives reconsider entire presentations. She had seen governors wait for his calls. She had watched investors straighten their jackets when he entered a room. Yet Ryan had said he raised me with the same quiet simplicity another man might use to explain who taught him to change a tire. You're telling me Chairman Harrison is your father? Not by blood. Ryan reached for the cable beside the console, but in every way that mattered. Ashley looked down again. Thomas Harrison, Dad. No title, no company name, no Chairman Harrison, just Dad. Suddenly the phone vibrated in her hand. Ashley froze. The same name filled the screen. Dad. He's calling, she said. Ryan nodded. Looks that way. Should I answer? A faint smile touched his face. You borrowed the phone. She gave him a look, then accepted the call. Mr. Harrison? There was a brief pause. Then Thomas Harrison's familiar voice came through the speaker, warm but puzzled. Ashley. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Yes, sir. Another pause. Why do you have my son's phone? The room went completely still. Ashley slowly raised her eyes toward Ryan. He wasn't smiling now. He wasn't enjoying her confusion. He simply waited with the quiet dignity of a man who had never needed a powerful name to make himself larger. And for the first time since becoming CEO, Ashley Parker realized there might be someone inside Harrison Technologies she had never truly seen. 3 weeks earlier, Ryan Mitchell had been almost invisible to Ashley Parker. At 6:15 each morning, long before the executive elevators began carrying polished shoes and expensive coffee toward the upper floors, Ryan entered Harrison Technologies through the employee entrance with a canvas lunch bag in one hand and a small toolbox in the other. He greeted the security guard by name. He held doors for people whose names he did not know, and when someone thanked him, he usually answered with the same quiet words. Happy to help. That Tuesday, the Chicago wind pressed cold rain against the glass tower while Ryan knelt beneath a conference table replacing a damaged network connection. 2 junior executives entered without noticing him. We need this room in 10 minutes, one said. Ryan looked up. You will have it in 5. The man glanced at Ryan's work shirt. Make it 3. Ryan said nothing. No wounded pride. No argument. He finished in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, tested the connection twice, then quietly gathered his tools. The executives never asked his name. At noon, Ryan ate a turkey sandwich in the service break room while checking the time. 12:17. His phone rang. The moment he saw Emma's name, the tiredness left his face. Hey, kiddo. Dad, I forgot my science folder. Ryan closed his eyes for half a second. The blue one. The very blue one. The one sitting beside your backpack this morning? Silence. Maybe. Ryan smiled. I will bring it. His coworker stared at him. Your lunch break is 20 minutes. Her presentation is at 1. That school is 6 miles away. Ryan wrapped the rest of his sandwich. Then I should stop talking. He made it with 4 minutes to spare. Emma Mitchell was 7, with sun-streaked brown hair, an endless supply of questions, and absolute confidence that her father could solve anything from a broken lamp to a terrible Monday. Ryan never corrected that belief. By 3:30, He was back at Harrison Technologies replacing a projector on the executive floor. Ashley passed him near the elevators while speaking with two vice presidents. Ryan stepped aside to give them room. She offered a distracted, "Thank you," without looking at his face. He nodded anyway. That evening, Ryan drove his 12-year-old Ford pickup through wet Chicago streets to a modest apartment where Emma sat at the kitchen table doing math homework. Dinner was macaroni and cheese, steamed broccoli, and apple slices. There were bills beneath a magnet on the refrigerator and a family photograph beside the coffee maker. Ryan could have chosen an easier life. Almost no one at Harrison Technologies knew that. Emma pushed her worksheet toward him. "Dad, what is 8 times 7? 56. You did not even think. I have hidden talents." She narrowed her eyes dramatically. "Are you secretly famous?" Ryan laughed softly. "Not even close." His phone vibrated on the counter. He glanced at the screen, and his expression warmed. "Who is it?" Emma asked. Ryan picked up the phone. "Grandpa," he answered and leaned against the counter while Emma returned to her homework. 30 floors above the city, people knew the caller as Thomas Harrison, founder and chairman of a multi-billion-dollar company. In Ryan's little kitchen, none of that mattered. "Hey, Dad," Ryan said. And that was the only title Thomas Harrison needed. Ashley Parker had built her career on one belief. Titles were earned, and every title carried weight. At 28, she was the youngest chief executive officer in Harrison Technologies history, and almost everyone had an opinion about whether she deserved the chair. Some called her brilliant. Some called her fortunate. Ashley answered both groups the same way. She worked earlier, stayed later, and remembered every number placed in front of her. On Thursday morning, she entered the executive conference room at 7:20 with a paper cup of black coffee and found Ryan already there, adjusting the ceiling projector. "You are early," she said. Ryan glanced down from the ladder. "So are you." Ashley almost smiled. "Almost. The quarterly review starts at 8. Then we both have deadlines." He returned to the projector. No nervousness. No attempt to impress her. That bothered Ashley more than disrespect would have. Most employees changed posture when she entered a room. Ryan simply remained Ryan. 20 minutes later, Senior Vice President Richard Cole arrived carrying a leather portfolio. He frowned at a stack of equipment cases near the wall. "Can somebody move this maintenance clutter before the board arrives?" Ryan climbed down. "I will take care of it." Richard barely looked at him. "Good." Ashley watched Ryan lift the cases without complaint. Then she noticed something strange. One case contained a prototype communications module that had been malfunctioning for weeks. Ryan paused, studied its indicator light, and quietly said, "That is not a hardware failure." Richard turned. "Nobody asked for diagnostics." Ryan met his eyes calmly. "Understood." He carried the case away. The meeting began. 40 minutes later, the same module failed during a demonstration. Engineers checked cables. Managers whispered. Richard blamed the hardware. Ashley watched numbers disappear from the wall display and felt irritation tightening behind her eyes. Then Ryan appeared at the doorway. "May I?" Richard exhaled. "We have engineers for this." Ashley looked at Ryan. "What did you notice earlier?" "A timing conflict in the network handshake." Silence. One engineer turned toward him. "How could you know that from an indicator light?" Ryan set down his toolbox. The light was not the clue. The delay between pulses was. 3 minutes later, the system was running. No applause followed. Ryan did not wait for any. He picked up his toolbox and left. Ashley stared after him. That afternoon, curiosity defeated protocol. She opened the internal employee database and searched his name. Ryan Mitchell, Facilities Systems Specialist. 5 years of exemplary reviews. No disciplinary history. No executive sponsorship. Then she reached the education field and stopped. Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. Master of Science in Systems Engineering. Both from Northwestern University. Ashley leaned closer. "Why are you repairing projectors?" she whispered. But the real surprise was lower on the screen. His original hiring paperwork carried an unusual restriction requested by Ryan himself. No preferential placement, no executive referral, no family disclosure. Ashley frowned. Family disclosure? Before she could open the archived attachment, her office door opened. Thomas Harrison stepped inside. "Still working?" he asked. Ashley minimized the window instinctively. "Just reviewing personnel." Thomas placed a thin cream-colored envelope on her desk. There was no corporate logo, only her name written by hand. "This is for later," he said. When the right question finally gets asked, Ashley looked at the envelope. What question? Thomas gave her a strange, almost sad smile. Whether this company belongs to the person whose name is on the building. Then he walked away. Ashley stared at the closed door, unaware that inside the envelope was a document signed 7 years earlier, and one line on that document would eventually change what everyone believed about Ryan Mitchell, Thomas Harrison, and the future of Harrison Technologies. By the time Ashley borrowed Ryan's phone 3 weeks later, curiosity had become something she could no longer dismiss. The morning had begun badly. Her own phone had died after a night of back-to-back calls. The board presentation was 12 minutes away, and an investor needed confirmation before the opening bell. Ryan happened to be inside the conference room replacing a damaged connection beneath the presentation console. "Can I borrow your phone?" Ashley asked. Ryan looked up. "Sure. Passcode." "There is not one." She raised an eyebrow. "You trust people that much?" "No," he said, handing it over. "I just do not keep anything I am ashamed of." Ashley entered the number, but before she could place the call, the contact screen shifted beneath her thumb. One familiar name caught her eye. Thomas Harrison. Beneath it was a single word that made no sense inside the world Ashley understood. "Dad." She looked at Ryan. "You know Thomas Harrison?" "Yes." "Personally?" "Yes." "How personally?" Ryan set his screwdriver beside the console. "He raised me." Then the phone rang. Ashley answered, and Thomas Harrison's voice came through with unmistakable surprise. "Ashley, why do you have my son's phone?" The air conditioning hummed overhead. Somewhere beyond the glass wall, an elevator chimed. Ashley heard both sounds with impossible clarity. "Your son?" she repeated. "Ryan is standing here." Thomas paused. "Then perhaps it is time you asked him instead of me." The call ended. Ashley slowly lowered the phone. Ryan returned to the cable as though the founder of a multi-billion-dollar corporation had not just called him son. "Why did you never tell anyone?" she asked. "Nobody asked." "That is not an answer." Ryan stood and wiped his hands on a clean cloth. "It is the only one I have." Ashley studied him. The work shirt, the inexpensive watch, the scratch toolbox with Emma's tiny rainbow sticker near the handle. Nothing about him fit the story her mind was trying to build. "You could have had almost any position here." "Maybe. You have 2 engineering degrees." Ryan's eyes narrowed slightly. "You checked my file." "I did." "Then you also saw my hiring condition." Ashley remembered the words. "No preferential placement. No executive referral. No family disclosure." "Why?" she asked. Ryan looked through the windows toward Chicago, where morning sunlight was beginning to break between the buildings. "Because I wanted to know what my work was worth before anyone knew whose dinner table I sat at." Ashley had no quick response. Ryan picked up his toolbox. "There is one thing I need from you." "What?" "Do not treat me differently. Ryan, you are the chairman's son. Yesterday, I was the man fixing your projector." His voice remained quiet. "If knowing Thomas changes what you think I deserve, then you are not seeing me. You are seeing him." The words landed without accusation, which somehow made them heavier. Ryan walked toward the door, then stopped. "And Ashley?" She looked up. "Thomas gave me a family when I had almost none left. That is why I call him Dad. Not because of the company." Then he left. Ashley remained alone beside the long walnut table. Her gaze drifted toward her office across the executive floor, where Thomas's cream-colored envelope was still locked inside her desk. For the first time, she understood that the question Thomas had mentioned might not be about ownership at all. It might be about inheritance, and she was beginning to suspect that the two were not the same thing. That evening, Ashley found Thomas Harrison alone in the executive lounge, standing beside a 20-foot window as Chicago lights flickered beneath a steady autumn rain. He had removed his suit jacket and loosened his tie, looking less like the chairman employees feared disappointing and more like a tired man nearing retirement. Ashley stopped several feet behind him. Why did Ryan choose this life? Thomas did not turn immediately. "You mean why does he work for what he earns?" "You know what I mean." "I do." Thomas finally faced her. "And that is exactly why you need to ask the question differently." Ashley folded her arms. "Then help me understand." Thomas studied her for a moment before sitting beside the darkened fireplace. Ryan was 14 when his parents died within a year of each other. His father, Daniel, was my closest friend. We started with nothing together. 2 borrowed desks, 1 unreliable computer, and enough confidence to embarrass ourselves. A faint smile crossed his face. Daniel never cared about money. He cared about building things that lasted. Thomas looked toward the ring. When Ryan had nowhere stable to go, I brought him home. So you became his guardian. On paper. Thomas nodded slowly. But paper has never understood family very well. Ashley sat across from him. Did Ryan always know he could inherit everything? Thomas's expression changed. That is your world talking again. The words were gentle, but they landed cleanly. Ryan knew he had a home. That was enough. Thomas explained how Ryan had earned scholarships, studied engineering, married his college sweetheart, Rebecca, and built a modest life miles away from the Harrison estate. When Rebecca passed away after an illness, Ryan was left raising Emma alone. Thomas had offered a house, financial security, even a trust large enough that Ryan would never need another paycheck. Ryan accepted none of it. What did he ask for? Ashley said. Thomas smiled. Sunday dinner. Ashley blinked. That was it. No. He asked me to teach Emma how to fish. Thomas's eyes softened. He told me she needed a grandfather more than she needed an inheritance. For several seconds, neither spoke. The rain tapped softly against the glass. Then why work here? Ashley asked. With his education, he could be anywhere. Thomas leaned back. Because this company mattered to Daniel. Ryan wanted to understand it from the bottom before anyone invited him upstairs. You allowed that. I argued with him for 6 months. And lost. Spectacularly. Ashley smiled despite herself. Thomas did too, but his expression soon became serious. Ryan has spent years proving that character can exist without privilege. Do not turn his restraint into another form of privilege by suddenly admiring him because you know my name. Ashley looked down. The truth was uncomfortable because it was precise. She had noticed Ryan's intelligence before discovering the relationship, but afterward every detail had seemed more important. His calm, his education, his judgment. The connection had changed her attention, exactly as Ryan feared. Thomas stood. There is something else you should know. Ashley looked up. 7 years ago, Ryan signed away a financial benefit I had prepared for him. Why? Because he believed accepting it would change how he measured himself. Thomas walked toward the door. I thought he was making a mistake. Do you still? Thomas paused. No. Then his eyes moved toward Ashley's office. But the document in that envelope is not the one Ryan signed. Ashley went still. Then what is it? Thomas opened the door. Something Daniel signed before Ryan ever became my son. He left before she could ask another question. Ashley remained beside the window, listening to the rain. Across the city, Ryan was probably helping Emma with homework, unaware that a cream-colored envelope waited inside a locked drawer. And for the first time, Ashley wondered whether Thomas Harrison had built Harrison Technologies with someone whose name had quietly disappeared from its history. The trouble arrived at 9:12 the next morning, hidden inside a calm email with the subject line Meridian Systems Review. Ashley read it twice before setting down her coffee. Harrison Technologies was scheduled to demonstrate its new communications platform to Meridian, a client whose 5-year contract could reshape the company. But overnight testing showed unexplained synchronization failures across 3 regional servers. At 9:20, Richard Cole entered Ashley's office carrying a folder and an answer that sounded almost too convenient. Facilities connected unauthorized equipment during Tuesday's maintenance window, he said. That corrupted the configuration. Ashley looked up. Facilities? Ryan Mitchell's team. 3 words. 1 accusation. 1 conclusion waiting to become official. Ashley opened the incident report. Did you verify this? Engineering did. Which engineer? Richard hesitated. My division reviewed it. Ashley noticed the difference. That was not my question. Before Richard could answer, a knock came at the door. Ryan stood outside holding a tablet. You wanted the network logs? Ashley had not called him, but someone in operations clearly had. Richard turned. This is an executive matter. Ryan remained at the doorway. Then I can leave. Wait, Ashley said. Richard's jaw tightened. Ashley gestured toward the tablet. What did you find? Ryan stepped inside and placed it on her desk. Facilities did connect equipment Tuesday night, but our system never touched Meridian's production environment. Richard gave a short laugh. Since when does maintenance advise the executive floor? Ryan did not react. Ashley did. Since maintenance brought evidence. Silence settled across the office. Ryan tapped the screen. 3 things matter. Timestamp. Access credential. Routing path. He showed the first log. The configuration changed at 11:43 Tuesday night. My team signed out at 10:18. The second, the credential belonged to Executive Engineering Administration. The third, the routing command came from the 28th floor. Ashley looked toward Richard. His division occupied 28. That proves nothing, he said. Credentials can be copied. Correct, Ryan replied. Which is why I checked the backup authentication record. Richard's face lost some color. Ryan continued without satisfaction in his voice. The authorization required a physical security token. There are only 4 assigned. Ashley leaned forward. Who has them? Ryan looked at Richard, then back at Ashley. That is not my accusation to make. It is your investigation. There it was again. Restraint. Ryan could have embarrassed Richard. He could have used Thomas's name. He could have turned suspicion into revenge. Instead, he placed truth on the table and stepped away from it. Ashley closed the folder Richard had brought her. The demonstration stays scheduled. Ryan, can the system be restored? Yes. How long? If engineering works with me, 90 minutes. Richard scoffed. You are putting a 5-year contract in the hands of a facilities specialist. Ashley remembered Ryan's warning from the day before. If knowing Thomas changes what you think I deserve, then you are not seeing me. She looked at the logs again. Then at Ryan. Not Thomas Harrison's son. Not the man with 2 degrees. Not the mystery inside a cream-colored envelope. Just the person whose evidence was strongest. No, Ashley said quietly. I am putting it in the hands of the person who found the problem. Richard said nothing. Ryan gave one small nod. Then I need access to 28. Ashley handed him her executive authorization card. You have it. As Ryan left, his tablet briefly illuminated with a message from Emma. Grandpa says Sunday dinner is at 6. Ryan smiled and slipped it into his pocket. Ashley caught the words, but another detail stayed with her. Thomas had told her Daniel Mitchell helped build things that lasted. Yet nowhere in the company's public history had she ever seen Daniel's name. She turned toward her locked desk drawer. The envelope was still there. For the first time, she wondered whether the crisis on the 28th floor was only exposing a technical failure, or whether Harrison Technologies had been carrying a much older error for years. The Meridian demonstration began at 11:30, and for the first 10 minutes, everything worked perfectly. Data moved cleanly across the wall displays. Response times held steady. The client representatives nodded as Ashley explained the platform's national rollout. Then Richard Cole entered through the rear doors carrying a red folder. He did not sit. Before Meridian signs anything, he said, the board should know this system was altered by an employee with an undisclosed personal relationship to our chairman. The room changed instantly. Ashley set down the presentation remote. Ryan stood near the technical station beside 2 engineers. He did not move. Richard opened the folder. Ryan Mitchell concealed that Thomas Harrison raised him. He accessed executive systems this morning. Now we are expected to trust his conclusions about a failure he conveniently discovered. One board member turned toward Ryan. Is Chairman Harrison your father? Ryan answered calmly. He raised me, yes. Whispers moved around the table. Richard continued. That is a conflict of interest. No, Ashley said. It is irrelevant unless you can show his evidence is false. Richard looked at her. You are defending him? I am defending facts. 3 sentences. 3 choices. Then silence. Ashley turned to Ryan. Show them. Ryan connected his tablet to the display. The configuration changed at 11:43 Tuesday night. Facilities left at 10:18. The command originated from the 28th floor. The authorization required a physical security token. He advanced to the final record. Token number 3. Richard's expression hardened. Ashley asked the question everyone was waiting for. Who was assigned token number 3? Ryan looked directly at her. Richard Cole. The room went still. Richard immediately shook his head. Someone could have taken it. Ryan nodded. That is possible. Richard seemed almost relieved. Then Ryan continued. Which is why I asked security to verify the token cabinet record. Your token was never returned Tuesday. Ashley placed both hands on the table. Richard. He looked around the room, but no answer came. The doors opened behind him. Thomas Harrison entered quietly. Several directors began to stand. Thomas raised one hand. Please remain seated. Richard turned toward him. Thomas, this situation is being distorted. Thomas walked to the table. Ryan asked me not to come. His gaze moved toward Ryan. In fact, he specifically asked me to stay out of it. Then Thomas placed a printed report beside Ashley. So I am not here as his father. He looked around the room. I am here because he was right. No one spoke. Thomas explained that independent cybersecurity staff had confirmed every record Ryan presented. The alteration had been an unauthorized attempt to hide a failed internal test before the Meridian review. Richard would be removed from the project pending formal investigation. Ryan showed no triumph. He simply disconnected his tablet. Thomas watched him with something deeper than pride. For 5 years, Thomas said, this man refused every advantage my name could offer him. He asked to be judged by his work. Today, some of you nearly judged his work by my name. The words settled over the room. Ashley felt them most. Ryan picked up his toolbox. The system is stable. Meridian can continue whenever you are ready. One client representative stared at him. That is all you have to say? Ryan paused. The truth does not become more true because I say it louder. Silence again. This time, it was respect. As Ryan walked toward the door, Thomas quietly placed a hand on his shoulder. For one brief second, chairman and facilities specialist disappeared. There was only a father and a son. Ashley watched them leave, then noticed something beneath Thomas's report. A photocopied incorporation page from decades earlier had slipped loose. 2 signatures appeared at the bottom. Thomas Harrison, Daniel Mitchell. Ashley's breath caught. Beside Daniel's name was a handwritten percentage, 49%. And suddenly the cream-colored envelope locked in her office no longer felt like history. It felt like a promise that had never been fulfilled. Ashley waited until the Meridian representatives had left before she found Ryan. He was on the 28th floor, kneeling beside an open network cabinet while the late afternoon sun stretched amber across the carpet. His toolbox sat beside him. Emma's rainbow sticker caught the light. Nothing about the scene suggested that less than 2 hours earlier, an entire boardroom had learned he was the chairman's son. Ryan. He looked over his shoulder. Is the Meridian system acting up again? No. Then that is good news. He returned to the cable in his hand. Ashley stepped closer. I came to apologize. Ryan stopped. The building seemed unusually quiet around them, filled only with the soft hum of servers behind the wall. You did not accuse me, he said. That is not what I mean. He stood. Ashley had delivered speeches to hundreds of employees without hesitation, but the next sentence came slowly. I am sorry I needed your connection to Thomas before I truly started paying attention to you. Ryan said nothing. I noticed your work before that, she continued. But afterward, everything suddenly seemed more important. Your degrees. Your judgment. The way Thomas spoke about you. I told myself I was being curious. She shook her head. I was measuring you differently. Ryan leaned lightly against the cabinet. Most people do. That does not make it right. No. His answer was quiet, not cruel. Ashley almost smiled at its simplicity. You could make apologies easier. Then they would not be worth much. For the first time that day, she laughed. Ryan's expression softened. Ashley looked at the rainbow sticker. Emma. She decided industrial gray needed help. She was right. A comfortable silence settled between them. Then Ashley remembered the incorporation page. Ryan. Did your father ever talk about starting Harrison Technologies? Ryan's face changed slightly. Daniel. Yes. Sometimes. Mostly stories about sleeping under desks and surviving on diner coffee. Did he ever mention ownership? Ryan frowned. Thomas told me Dad helped at the beginning, but he left before the company became anything serious. Ashley studied him. He genuinely did not know. Why are you asking? She could have told him about the 49%. She could have opened the envelope immediately and satisfied every question burning inside her. Instead, she remembered what Thomas had said. When the right question finally gets asked, because I saw his signature on an old document. Ryan looked toward the windows. My father signed a lot of things. He believed paperwork made dreams feel official. There was affection in his voice. Thomas kept everything. Apparently. Ryan closed the cabinet and picked up his tools. Ashley walked beside him toward the elevator. For what it is worth, she said, I did not trust you today because of Thomas. Ryan pressed the elevator button. I know. How? Because you asked for evidence before you asked who my father was. The doors opened. They stepped inside. Ashley felt something shift between them. Not romance. Not yet, but trust beginning where assumptions had ended. On the lobby level, Ryan checked the time. I have to go. Emma has a school project involving cardboard, glue, and apparently my complete surrender. Ashley smiled. Good luck. I will need it. He started toward the exit, then turned. Ashley, yes. Whatever you found about Daniel, do not protect me from it. Her smile faded. What makes you think I would? Ryan glanced toward the executive elevators. Because Thomas does. Then he walked into the cool Chicago evening. Ashley remained beneath the lobby lights, hearing those 3 words repeat in her mind. Because Thomas does. Upstairs, she unlocked her desk and finally opened the cream-colored envelope. The first page carried Daniel Mitchell's signature. The second carried Thomas Harrison's. But it was the final sentence that made Ashley stop breathing for a moment. Daniel's 49% had never been surrendered, sold, or transferred. It had been placed in trust for one named beneficiary, Ryan Mitchell. 3 days later, Ryan sat at Thomas Harrison's dining table with the cream-colored envelope unopened before him. Emma was in the kitchen arranging chocolate chip cookies on a plate while Thomas stood near the window, unusually quiet. Ashley had brought the documents herself. She had refused to discuss them without both men present. Ryan looked from Thomas to Ashley. 49%. Thomas nodded. Your father and I started the company together. Ryan leaned back slowly. You told me he left. He did. But he never abandoned what he built. Thomas sat across from him. Daniel stepped away when your mother became ill. He transferred his shares into a trust because he wanted you to decide what they meant when you were old enough to understand the responsibility. Ryan stared at the envelope. I am 32. I know. So why am I hearing this now? Thomas lowered his eyes. For perhaps the first time Ashley had ever seen, the chairman looked ashamed. Because I convinced myself I was protecting you. Silence filled the room. Emma's soft humming drifted from the kitchen. Ryan did not raise his voice. You should have trusted me. Yes, Thomas said. No defense. No excuse. Just truth. Ryan opened the documents. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was unmistakable. Daniel Mitchell's original stake had survived restructurings, mergers, and decades of growth through a protected founder trust. Ryan was not a maintenance employee who happened to know the chairman. On paper, he was one of the most significant beneficial owners connected to Harrison Technologies. Ashley watched his face, expecting shock, anger, perhaps disbelief. Instead, Ryan asked one question. Does Emma's future change? Thomas blinked. Financially? Completely. Ryan shook his head. That is not what I asked. Thomas understood. His eyes softened. No. She still needs her father. She still needs homework checked. She still needs Sunday dinner. Ryan finally smiled. Then we start there. In the months that followed, very little changed at first. Ryan kept working. He moved from facilities into systems engineering only after completing the same internal review required of every candidate. Ashley insisted on it. Ryan thanked her for insisting. Respect became friendship, and friendship slowly became something warmer, built through coffee, school pickups, ordinary conversations, and the rare comfort of being understood without needing to perform. On a cool Sunday evening, Ashley joined Ryan and Emma at Thomas's house outside Chicago. Burgers cooked on the backyard grill. Emma chased soap bubbles across the lawn while Thomas pretended not to be terrible at making them. No board members. No titles. No polished conference tables. Ryan's phone rested beside Ashley on the patio table. It rang. The screen lit up with the familiar word. Dad. Ashley looked at it and smiled. Months earlier, that single word had shattered everything she assumed about Ryan. Now it seemed almost ordinary. Ryan returned carrying lemonade. Can you hand me that? Ashley passed him the phone. Your dad. Ryan answered. You are 20 feet away, he called toward Thomas. Thomas laughed and held up his own phone from beside the grill. I wanted to make sure you still answer. Emma giggled. Then Thomas's expression grew serious. Actually, Ryan, there is one more thing. He walked over carrying a small wooden box. Inside was an old photograph of 2 young men standing beside borrowed desks. Daniel Mitchell and Thomas Harrison. On the back, Daniel had written a message. Ryan read it silently, then handed it to Ashley. The words were simple. If my son ever comes here, do not give him my chair. Make him discover whether he deserves one of his own. Ryan looked at Thomas. You knew? Thomas nodded. Every day. Ryan's eyes filled, but his voice remained steady. So the facility's job was not my decision, Thomas said. You chose it yourself. Just like Daniel hoped you would choose your own way. Ashley turned the photograph over once more and noticed a second line near the bottom, almost faded with age. She read it aloud. And if he becomes the better man, Tell him the company was never his inheritance. Ryan frowned. Then what was? Thomas looked toward Emma laughing beneath the porch lights. A choice. He reached into the wooden box and removed one final document. It was not another stock certificate. It was Daniel Mitchell's original succession letter. Ryan's name appeared nowhere on it. Instead, Daniel had instructed that when his son was ready, Ryan alone would choose who should eventually lead the company after Thomas. Ashley went completely still. Ryan looked at the document, then at her. Thomas smiled quietly. The greatest secret had never been that Ryan inherited 49% of Harrison Technologies. It was that Daniel had entrusted him with something money could never purchase. The judgment to decide who deserved its future.